Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Tonight's tutorial is how to blend bracket exposures using HDR Merge in Lightroom. At the weekend I went for a wander in Glenlednock. There were a few images I had to set bracketing up for in my camera. That was to capture all the exposure detail in each of the different scenes. So some of the scenes I had rocks in the foreground, I had a really bright sky, and they had snow in the hills. The camera struggles to capture all this detail in one single shot. So I exposed for the foregrounds, I exposed for the midground, and I exposed for the background, especially the snow and the sky that made up most of the background in my images. So in this tutorial, I'll walk you through an easy and quick way of blending these bracket exposures using HDR Image in Image Merge in Lightroom. Lightroom up. I'll start this tutorial by bringing these three sets of images together. So I've highlighted, I'll select the first image and then I'll go to the last image in the set, select shift and click, and that highlights all our images. And then to simply merge them, all I need to do is go up to Photo, Photo Merge, then select HDR, and then that will then start to process the image. So there's a few features here, so I always keep auto align checked, because similar to our previous photo stack tutorial, it helps align and line up all your photographs together. Auto settings you can turn on and off, it's really up to you. I'll show you once we've got a final image and what it looks like, what the difference is between when the auto settings are applied and when they're off. And then you've got show deghost overlay. So I don't need to use deghost overlay on this set of images. Where deghost really comes in handy is if you're taking a scene and that scene's got a number of people in it. Every time you take a photograph, then there's going to be a lag. So it will look like shadows in your photograph because your people are actually moving. If you select deghost, what that will do is that will remove all the people's shadows and you'll only be left with the individual people in your photograph, which will give you what it is you're actually looking for. So it's actually quite handy when it comes to people or moving objects that you're taking photographs of. Okay, so now we've got our image. As you can see, it's very, very bright. If I take off auto settings, you can see the difference where all the shadows have been brightened, and then we kind of get a darker image when you remove the auto settings. But what you'll actually see is there's a lot of highlights that are bright in the snow and the sky. So if I leave auto settings on, I'll show you very quickly how I kind of detune those images, because some people like an oversaturated HDR image and some people look like a normal looking image, but HDR will give you the brighter of the brightest settings, and it'll also give you the darkest of the darkest settings. So it's really up to you and your taste how you want your final image to look. So if I select develop, I can start to do some global changes just now. So what I'll do for this image, I'll just grab this scene, and what I'll do is I'll tone down the highlights. I'll tone down the saturation to make the grass and the rocks look a little bit more natural rather than the vibrant colour that they were at. And there we go. So if I just tweak that up a bit to about there, play a bit with some of the shadows a bit, tweak the clarity, give it a wee bit texture. That starts to look a wee bit more normal than what we had seen originally. So in here you can see it's a wee bit bright in the snow. So again, what I could do is I could take the circular tool and bring that down a bit, and then what you can see is I can reduce the highlights so we can start to see some detail. I'll up the texture texture and add some texture into the snow. And what I'll also do is I'll just increase the exposure just a bit to about there. And we've recovered. So where at the beginning you had an oversaturated image, now we've got what looks more a realistic image. But again, it's just a very simple way of bringing all those exposures together, and then that gives you your image. And then all we need to do now is to add it into Photoshop is select photo, edit in, and then edit in Photoshop. So I hope that helped you tonight. And this is a very quick way of merging your exposures to create an image. HDR isn't everyone's taste. Some HDR images push the shadows and the saturation to the absolute limit. But hopefully you'll have seen how we can pull back the settings to create the image that meets your taste. The alternative to HDR merging in Lightroom is actually to take each of your different images and blend them through the layer masks in Photoshop, and that can take a lot of time. And again, it's really just personal preference. So thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe. Remember, it's free. And if you press the bell icon, that will allow you to be notified when I publish future videos. So thank you, and catch you in my next video.